Today, on this episode of Going Deeper, we are talking about some probably uncommon passages that deal with the second coming of Jesus. I'm your host, Kyle McCaskill.
I'm Marie Burns.
I'm Doug DeGraffenreid.
So join us as we go deeper. Well, I guess we can just dive right into the first chapter of the book of Acts, really kind of sets up the whole readings for this week pretty well, I think. But something of note, and I'm pretty sure, Doug, you can either verify this, but common knowledge or many biblical scholars will say that the same person that wrote the book of Luke wrote the book of Acts.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if you're reading this and immediately you get tripped up where the writer of Acts 1 says, the former account I made, he's probably talking about
Luke,
the book of Luke. So that's like almost housekeeping at this point where we just kind of get past.
But who's Theophilus?
I don't know who Theophilus is.
If you translate it literally, it's friend of God.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So
I like that.
It could be
I'll take it.
person's name, or he's just laying it out there as a general audience.
Gotcha. Cool.
Theophilus. So we have this account in, or really this introduction to the book of Acts here.
Yeah.
And we have some words of Jesus in it. And this is the point when Jesus goes up.
He ascends. That's
It's a small passage, but it's packed full of, you've got the promise of the Spirit, you've got the Great Commission, and the Ascension. And I've always loved this verse 11, where they're all looking up intently, and the two angels walk up and like, what you looking at? First, I don't know, for whatever reason, that image just cracks me up. Like, what are we doing? He told you to go. Don't look there. Look out there. And it always made me chuckle.
Okay, so maybe we can infer right from the get-go that maybe we can look forward to and anticipate the second coming, but maybe we shouldn't be so focused on it that we miss what's happening in front of us.
And to that point, I would say that last statement kind of sets the tone for everything we read this week. You can get bogged down, and we can go get bogged down. It's always fun to do that in the details of the second coming and is it literal and all that good stuff. But the point is, of all of these readings, spoiler alert, we've got a job to do while we're still on earth before this goes down. Don't look up there, look out there.
Yeah. And another just little interesting thing for me with this passage, we know, because we've been there, that when you get up out of the atmosphere, that it's really just space. We know that.
Heaven's up there, Kyle. Clouds and little...
I want to know when you've been there.
Well, I mean, humans have been there. We have pictures from it. I've not been there. William Shatner has been there.
He boldly went.
There you go.
But so with that in mind, I'm thinking, okay, so Jesus ascended into the clouds, into heaven, and we scientifically know that heaven isn't like physically located up beyond the clouds.
Right.
But the understanding of the people of the day was heaven was up there.
Right.
Right? Am I kind of interpreting this right?
You're fine, but there's a little hint in verse 9. They're watching, he's lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight.
Right.
So, let's say that Christ entered a different dimension.
Right.
Eternally.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gone in that place where he is no longer bound in time.
Right. So what I what I appreciate about how that happened for them as they saw it is it really was kind of according to their understanding of the physical world.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And so I like where you're saying that, Doug, a whole lot. That because that obviously, maybe not obviously, but to me that really is what happened.
Right.
That Jesus was what would be the right word? He ascended physically.
He ascended and
Then transcended? Is that?
the word translated is used sometimes. He
Okay.
translated into that pre-existent Christ.
Okay.
And this is where scholars just go crazy about the Jesus of history and the Christ of faith and some of the things like that. But it's pretty simple that in our communion ritual, the church only has one story. One story. Christ has died. Christ is risen. Christ will come again. And Acts 1 sets us up for, it is part of the story of Jesus that after the resurrection, there was the ascension.
Yeah.
And the disciples witnessed this miraculous event. It's hinted at, you could say, in the Transfiguration, which Jesus goes up on the mountain and is changed. So
Yeah.
you can say Acts 1 is that process of Jesus changing
Okay.
into his original state.
Is that Melchizedek?
We dealt
I'm
with that
glad.
in the Q&A a long time ago.
I'm glad,
We are over and done
okay,
with
we've
Melchizedek.
moved through Melchizedek. Huh.
Anyway, I hear that going on. Fine.
All right, so we kind of have a handle on
I think so.
Acts 1 and what we see there.
He's gone,
he's
y'all.
gone.
He's gone.
He's gone, but he's not.
So we can move and kind of jump over to the First Thessalonians passage that begins in First Thessalonians. That's hard to say.
Thessalonians.
Yeah.
You ought to pronounce the
First
church
Thessalonians.
Thessalonica.
Thessalonica.
Yeah, I like that the sound of that though. It
Thessalonica.
sounds fun. So uninformed brothers, you're not to be uninformed brothers about those who are asleep.
We hear this one
Is-
at funerals.
Yeah,
We don't grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope.
Yeah, and so we've got so many traditions in the church that are built around this looking forward. Like you say in the funerals, and this is a pretty popular funeral passage. Yes,
It used to be.
used to be.
It used to be.
I'm not a pastor. I don't do
I'm
funerals.
trying to think if I've used it recently.
I like it. I wanted it mine.
You wanted yours?
Let's look ahead. Don't worry so much about this. Let's
Yeah.
look to the better thing that's coming. I liked in this passage because we've also been studying Genesis. When he comes back, according to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who fall asleep. Sorry, verse 16. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command. That takes me back to Genesis in my mind. God speaks and big things happen.
Yeah.
The voice of the archangel with the trumpet call of God makes me think of Joshua. Like I have all these Old Testament callbacks in the moment that's coming later on.
Yeah.
Loud trumpets, when God's got a hold of them, do big things. And the dead I was just fascinated by the dead will rise first, and those of us who are still alive will be caught up in the clouds. So here's where you can start to get bogged down and hung up if you feel like it. What part are we in the process? So the way I have thought about end times in New Jerusalem is heaven and earth used to be together on one plane, and with the fall they had to be separated. And that when we realize the fullness in the end and all of this is over, the two will be back together again. So if we're getting caught up in the clouds, where are we going? And do we come back later? And you can head down the whole rapture road and all of that good stuff if you feel like it.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it goes back to trying to communicate to the people based on their understanding. And this idea that heaven was up there.
Right. Makes
You know,
sense.
and it's a decent enough analogy, I guess, if you're gonna think about heaven being up there. It was a place that was physically unattainable. Now, not so much for us because we have rockets and things that can take us to the up there.
So you're saying don't get caught up in the details.
Yeah, it might as well have been a different dimension.
Yeah.
They couldn't get there anyway.
So you did something different in your understanding of this. You make it, or I think I hear you making it,
I'm just asking questions.
well,
I'm not too hung up here. I think it's fun to dig in.
I've always made this the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any church rapture going on in my theology. It's when Christ comes back. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody out of the pool. It's over.
And we all get to join in.
We all join in,
eternity.
and the dispensationalists out there use this as, this is what the rapture is like, and I'm prepared for that too. I mean, if this is what the rapture's like, and we're caught up into heaven, I'm going to grab a sinner and get to about 15,000 feet, and I'm going to say, "Do you repent or do I let go?"
Oh, mercy.
Well, that's good
enough.
evangelism right there, man. I mean, and I think what Paul's, and I was listening to both of your translations, and they've taken the more gentle. There's a variant reading that I don't want you ignorant about or uninformed about those who have fallen asleep. The other reading is dead. And
well, that's what I interpreted it as.
well, I know it's just interesting that the New Revised Standard has put the word "died" back in with the variant reading. But it is that, okay, your loved one that you're grieving right now, that you would like to have one more conversation with, but you can't. In God's plan and in God's economy, they're not lost, they're not gone. There is resurrection. There is also a reunion that takes place. So these words are very comforting to people who have just lost loved ones and are dealing with the awesome reality of the grave.
Yeah.
We have the warning here that crops up, I think, in almost every passage, to not be like the rest of the world, caught in the darkness, caught in a drunken life, that we need to be awake and in the light and in the work. And going back to Acts chapter 1, we've got a job to do. And it's not just that we make sure we've got it right, but it's that we're making sure everyone around us is with us on that journey.
Well, if we go back to, I think, week 6, it was when Doug's message that week. He had a whole thing, and I think I even posted a video about it. A clip of his sermon from that week, talking about, are you on God's side, or do you want to try to convince people that God's on your side? Or are you living?
Are you on God's side?
Are you on God's side? Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that relates here as well, that we get so focused on some of that we miss that idea that in all of this, the Great Commission and all that, we have to be looking to God to make sure that we're on His side. Right. Not the other way around,
right?
Because my side is invariably wrong.
Mine is too. So there you go.
So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, right.
Right. So as we move on through our passages this week, we get to what is the next one?
Second
Thessalonians. Which is a lot easier to say than First Thessalonians. I'm just saying.
So.
And the mystery character, the
man of lawlessness.
Who's
that? Should I take this?
Well, maybe it's not who's that, but what's that?
Yeah.
What if it's people who have lived without God or live in opposition to God or live in opposition to the people of God? You've always got, with the writings of Paul, a couple of things that are informing his writing. You have the Judaizers who are going around through the church trying to get people to deconvert or become Jewish again or add Jewish law to the grace of Jesus Christ. Or you have the Roman Empire who's going around persecuting people, costing them their livelihood, their homes, and in some cases their lives. So this very likely is a larger concept of the idea of somebody who lives without God. You can say and be correct, it is a harbinger or hint of the character we call the Antichrist, and that also can be playing in this. So it's a rich image that has a lot of meanings that are pinned to it.
So see, when I read it, the way I hear it is not so much an Antichrist, but not putting our trust in political figures to save us.
Right.
Not putting our hope in a government to save us. And there's not a time in history when things weren't just really sour in terms of government and we always have somebody when we get a new president that says it's the Antichrist. It's said every 4 to 8 years. It's said by somebody, and obviously no. But to me, I read this as, don't be a person who puts your president or your government or some super preacher figure on some kind of pedestal and worship that as though it can save you.
Yeah.
Those things don't save you. Don't put your hope there. And I think we get caught up in that a lot, especially when things are
bleak. Hard. Yeah.
It's hard not to look around for the next great political figure that maybe if they can take the whatever, then everything will be fine. And it's not going to be fine.
Well,
that's fine.
It's not going to be.
Okay, do you think we do that because it distracts us?
We want a comfortable life.
Yeah.
And rather than thinking about reality or current reality and how to, deal with our current reality or swim through or overcome our current reality, we distract ourselves?
Sure.
I would say that you can believe that and you would be correct.
Okay, well, I'm glad you say I can believe that and be correct. Sounds very familiar. I've heard somebody say that before.
Well, I think we feel like we're supposed to have a comfortable life, and that when things are bad, we're looking to put everything back in its place and get it back to good. And I've had this conversation a few times lately, and maybe this is why I signed up for this podcast. It's just been on my brain. It's not going to get back to good. I'm sorry. I don't care who's in the White House. I don't care at what state our government gets in. One way or another, things aren't good because we're not meant for this world. We're not meant to be citizens here. We're supposed to, when we go, we take as many people with us as we can.
We're pilgrims passing through.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we get caught up in, is it the end times because we're hearing about wars and rumors of wars and all that stuff, but
there have been wars and rumors of wars for millennia.
When Jesus says, this ain't the end, y'all. This is just how you human beings act.
When you read about what's going to precede the end times, there's two schools of thought. One is that it's going to be really, really bad, or there's going to be great revival right before. And all I can say is, I don't expect.
Can I sign up for the revival?
Please.
I want to see that.
I agree.
I'd like to be a part of that.
In one of our readings, it does mention that he wants as many people come in as can come. And our job is to spread the word. And quite honestly, it's a whole lot easier to not spread the word and to skip out on church when everything's good.
Yeah.
And to not bring our kids to church when everything's good. And we're promised in here that there's going to be strife and we're going to be persecuted, and I'm sorry, we're not persecuted in America. We're not. It might be coming.
Mm-hmm. And, it's a lot easier to say I don't need God when you feel like you don't need God because you're managing just fine on your own, air quotes.
Right.
Because, none of us are managing on our own.
No. Well, I've got people saying I'm worried about this world that my child is coming up in, and all I can say is our kids are here for such a time as this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do everything I can to raise my son up to be one of those people who helps bring revival.
Well, and when you look at it, I'm so worried about the world we're leaving. Well, maybe it's our job to train and teach and lead the next generation into being a generation of change.
Yes.
Instead of, woe is me.
Leave such a legacy in your children that they're strong enough to handle what comes ahead because their strength comes from Christ Jesus.
Yeah. That'll preach.
She doesn't do that. Write that down, Doug.
We need to let her do that, don't we?
I think we do.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think if you want to hear Marie preach, just let us know in the comments section.
Look at that.
Yeah, I like this. Okay.
I'm waiting for my mother-in-law to comment, and that'll be it. And I love her for it.
Well, the other thing, man, you mentioned about children is being a good parent means you help them cope with pain. Mm-hmm. And what we've got is the avoidance of pain and discomfort. Mm-hmm. And my free commercial is we have our little children running our lives rather than parents being parents and setting good boundaries and saying, no, you can't do 900 things this week.
Yeah.
I don't know what did that. I don't know if culture did that. I don't know if competitive nature did that, but I listen to these parents talk about what they're dragging their kids around to do, and I'm exhausted. And I'm wondering, how do you have time to be a parent? Mm-hmm. And the answer is they don't. They're taxi cab drivers, and they're letting other people parent and raise their children. Because part of the tough things about being a parent is living through liminal time, is living through summer vacation.
Mm-hmm. Right. You can't pack family history into one summer vacation.
And what coping mechanisms are we giving our kids? What coping mechanisms are we placing in them to point them to the strength of Jesus Christ?
And I'll be the first to admit, if I have a chance to help my son avoid pain and anguish, it's the default as a parent because you don't want to see your baby's struggle. Yeah. But at the same time, it's making that concerted effort to, this sucks, but I got to let this happen. Yeah. And it's hard. And signing them up for all the things, it happens before you even know it's happened. And so it's taking that time every once in a while to purposefully take stock of where you spent your week, where your kids spent their week, and saying, okay, is it time to do things different? Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're in school for however long.
So much of their,
I mean, get off the bus at almost 10 to 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
The day is gone.
The day's gone. And we have like maybe an hour or two together, maybe if we're lucky. And that's making, for me, it was making the decision that I'm going to come to work really early in the morning and work extra in other places so that I can be there to pick him up. Not everybody's got that option. I get that. So you've got to find it where you can. But to bring it back around, the whole point is because things are never going to be perfect in this world. They're guaranteed. We have sin. This is all guaranteed to go. I mean, at one point, I think it pretty much says go up in flames. So
that's the next reading. That's the next reading.
Peter. Yes, it's going up in flames. What have we instilled in our children so that when they're living through it and we've moved on, they cling to Christ, and they know they can, and they know that He is the only way through it all, and not just surviving it, but thriving in it and bringing others with them. It's hard. Parenting is hard.
Yeah, that's why they let you young people do it. It's tough.
I don't always feel
That's
like a young
tough.
person.
That's why
doing it.
nobody warns you either. They don't warn you.
No, that's why grandparents are so happy when our children have children, because it's our revenge. Because our kids are going to find out what we dealt with raising them. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's kind of true, because
Fair enough.
Last night there was a deja vu moment for me. Thinking back to my childhood with my son sitting up after church working on a paper kind of thing.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, how many times did I do this growing up? And I'm sitting here having a fight with my mom because I don't want to write it the way she's telling me to write it. And I'm sitting there telling my son to write it the way my mom always told me to write it. And, I'm like, and so I just said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to go sit and watch a hockey game.
You're on your own, kid.
And-
Struggle through.
And at that point, that's when Mom came in and saved the day.
Like, I got this. I got this. I can make you do it. I can make them do it. There you go.
Sometimes you got to tag team with the spouse.
This is true.
Yep.
Boy, we really chased a rabbit on that one, didn't
We did. Sorry, but it all related
Second
back
Peter.
to yeah.
Second Peter.
Okay, what
Second
you
Peter.
want to say about Second
I
Peter?
want to say 2 Peter. Actually, 2 Thessalonians and 2 Peter are two readings about the second coming of Jesus that we don't often read. That they're sort of country roads that we never take.
Okay.
That they're there, and they're just. It was neat to read them again and go, oh yeah, that's where that is.
I like Peter's hat tip to Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
So why do you think it is that just in our daily readings that we go through that these passages maybe get overlooked?
Because when it comes to this subject, we want to stick with the familiar.
Okay.
Well, I was going to ask why Jesus' words aren't brought up this week. I mean, he had a lot to say in Matthew 24.
I'm surprised that Matthew 24 isn't in these readings, because that's Jesus himself talking about his
Yes.
return.
Which I have questions about that, but we can ask going deeper if you
The-
want.
The problem with Matthew 24 is there are three questions posed, and Jesus answers all three of them. You just don't know in which order he's answering them. And so scholars have kind of scratched their heads about Matthew 24, that there's a lot there, and it's Jesus talking, but we're not sure which one he's answering.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We don't have to dig in. We've got plenty of other things to dig into. We don't have to go there.
That's right. And so that becomes your extra credit assignment for the
Sure.
week, is to go read Matthew 24.
Read Matthew 24 and then let that be your questions you email to
Yeah.
askgoingdeeper@gmail.com.
AskMarie.com. But
That domain doesn't exist.
Second Peter, like the other passages, it's not just getting your rapture robes and going and sitting on your roof. That Second Peter says we need to strive to be found by Him at peace. Wow, Hyrene, the Greek word for peace, doesn't mean the absence of conflict. It means the ability to make it through conflict
Ooh.
without spot or blemish.
How do you do that, though? I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question.
Right.
And I'm not like saying, well, how do you do that? But
I don't know, but the spot and the blemish is obviously for very young people, because once you get to a certain age, your skin does this weird stuff, and it just starts changing colors and things pop out, and it's really weird. I think it's back to honestly what Marie was preaching about with our children. You raise them so that they have assurance in Christ. Their focus is on Christ. Their hope is to raise themselves and their friends into a relationship with Christ. We start focusing in this culture, in this time, on something other than Jesus, it will separate you from your mental health really quickly.
I don't want to do that.
Because we live in a wacky, it's a strange world.
Say that again.
You know, Jerry Springer is considered mainstream and quite boring now.
That
it's like, come on. So peace, the peace that the Bible talks about is not something that you go and do push-ups and sit-ups and obtain. It is a gift of God that is given to you. And it's one of the fruits of the Spirit. And we forget that because it's not listed.
Love,
first.
joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness,
it's
and
right
self-control.
there. And sometimes in chaotic times, you pray, God, give me your peace. And I know very often as a pastor, one of the ways I make decisions that I have to make sometimes is, God, when I've made the right decision, give me the peace about it. And as the staff all knows from hanging around me, that I've been struggling with a decision that I just hadn't had any peace about.
Right.
And until I get that peace, so anyway, that's my.
And once you have that peace, it doesn't mean everything's settled and okay. It just means you.
It means I'm on the path I believe that God's laid out for either me and or the church. But it's a, I don't know. We all, what is it? Throw out our sheaves and say, "Okay, God, I want it dry this day, and I'd like it."
That was a discussion recently in my small group. Was could it be like a la Elijah with the wet altar on fire? Can that be the sign?
We want to go prophets of Baal. Yeah, that would be good.
Flashing signs. I know it doesn't come that way often.
And it's quiet. And what I've discovered, a lot of things in church life post-COVID are really struggling with what is best for the church as the body of Christ and what's best moving us forward. Again, I think normal now is going to be redefined, particularly in church life.
Yeah, I think it's inescapable.
What is Christ calling us to at this time? And I think Christ is calling us to revival. You know,
Absolutely.
There are so many, they're just small little pin lights of the Holy Spirit around Trinity that pop up in the strangest places, people coming in saying, I believe God's calling me to do. And we say, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And some of those, and I guess what encourages me is so many of those things that people are feeling called to are actually outside the walls of the physical church. They're out in our community where people are lost and hopeless and without Christ. And the Holy Spirit's raising up people to go into that world and proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. So,
yeah, our waiting period is over. That ended in Acts chapter 2.
Oh, I thought we were finished. I was looking for some timer, and our waiting period's over. Let's go.
I'm with you, Kyle. We have the Holy Spirit. It's time to go.
The physical plant we have here really it's not where we come to huddle. It's where we but if we do huddle here, we should be drawing up game plans and drawing up the play that we're about to go execute.
A training center to train, an encouragement center to encourage people and show people how to live in an environment that is not comfortable for Christians in many ways, and how to live faithfully in a way that's winsome, in a way that points people to Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's not that easy. A lot of times.
No,
because we inevitably
it's
change up my language there. Inevitably try to go at them and bulldoze a life.
Yeah,
we don't want to do that.
A reed bruised or a wick gently burning. Yes. Somebody preached on that recently. Since all these things are to be dissolved in this way, what sort of persons ought you to be in leading lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens have been set ablaze and dissolved, and the elements melt with fire. In other words, part of the coming of Christ is connected to our holiness and our godliness.
Yeah. So I think our modern culture likes to kind of skip over that. Because
holiness and godliness?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and even
Since the beginning.
yeah, and even
Pretty much Adam and Eve were doing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But our elements of our modern Christianity want to ignore that. And we want to ignore what Paul said in a book that he wrote, where he said, "Should I sin all the more so that grace can abound?"
That would be the book of Romans.
I was making sure you knew what I was talking about.
Okay, just checking.
But I think it's all about our our motives.
Okay.
that we shouldn't be seeking after holiness as the way to attain, but our holiness should be born out of our response to what we have received.
Mm-hmm. I will accept your thesis as long as you keep holiness as a goal toward which we're striving.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, not something we can produce, but given to us as a gift of our relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeah. And I certainly know that godliness, there is no godliness in Doug.
That it comes from somewhere else.
It has to come from somewhere else.
Fair enough.
And I'm quite certain that wherever God pours in his godliness in my life, it leaks. I need to work on my godliness container because, yes, it leaks. But again, 2 Peter's not something we read often, and while the images are harsh, the encouragement is powerful.
Well, I think that is a consistent theme with when we read about stuff like this, is that there's never harsh words without also words of encouragement and hope.
Would you say it's like Nehushtan, that while you've got serpents there punishing you, you've also got the serpent on the stick bringing you mercy? That somebody said that mercy and justice are often very close to each other, but I don't know who that was.
I just don't know why it had to be snakes.
Why did it have to be
snakes? I know I said that recently in another thing, but I don't.
Right. So we can go ahead and move forward into the Revelation passage, but
this one's fun.
It is fun. We're gonna have to go through it kind of quickly, but I'm going to hold my finger up and screen somewhere over there on the screen. I'm gonna put a link to the last episode that we did of the E100 series. I think that was season 2, because it was us three talking about the book of Revelation.
Okay,
right, I forgot about that.
You're bringing back a golden oldie then, or you're asking them to bring back a golden oldie?
If you want to hear more of what we thought at that particular time about the book of Revelation.
We changed, man.
Probably so. But we went in great depth and great detail into the book of Revelation, specifically covering chapters 21, 22.
Right.
In that episode. So if you want to hear even more after this one, link is in the corner.
Right.
Go
I
find
would
that
say
episode.
don't, personally, I like to rib and I like to ask questions I already know the answers to just for funsies. But I would say with this passage, read it out loud and then let that be it.
Yeah.
Read it out loud and let that be it. I do have one question.
Oh.
I may have asked this already, but I've slept since then and I forgot. Who are the 12 apostles? It's not the 12 disciples, it says the 12 apostles, and I would assume Judas isn't included in that.
No, we're going to have either Mattathias or Paul acting as one of the
Fair
12.
Enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would say, honestly, if you've never read the book of the Revelation from beginning to end in one sitting, totally do it.
Oh, it's fascinating.
And don't get caught up. Just keep moving ahead.
Yeah. Put your study Bible down.
Ooh.
Put your study Bible down.
Right. Oh, get the Bible app to read it to you.
Yeah.
Just start to finish and just take it in and see if by the close of 22, when it's saying the Spirit and the bride say come, and let the one who hears say come, let the one who is thirsty come, and let the one who wishes to take the free gift of the water of life. If all of that doesn't put you on your knees by the end, come talk to me.
Well,
it should stir something in you about that piece of us that longs for what we had all the way in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and this is where it's made right.
Yeah.
This is our look forward to where it's officially like we're back where we're supposed to be. I love the oh shoot, I'm gonna have to look for it because I did not highlight it. But where it says that he will be their God and they will be their people. That section. Where is it? Help me out, please.
It's just right here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 21:3.
Read that for us.
See,
Doug.
the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them, and they will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. And the one seated on the throne said, "See, I'm making all things new." And I'm going to be standing in that making all things new line.
Yeah. I mean, if that's not powerful imagery right there,
I know.
because if you think about it, when the Apostle John, the author of this book, is writing and he's describing seeing Jerusalem come out, what does he not see? He does not see a temple.
Yeah.
Because the temple, the
you don't
purpose
need one.
of the temple was to allow God to dwell amongst his people, but with that necessary separation, because sin and our unholiness could not stand in the presence of a holy God. And now that all that's done,
Hey, we're going to be up there without sin.
Yeah.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah.
God himself is the temple. The temple. Air quotes.
But 21 and 22 also, if you want to go back to Genesis, have so many things that are parallel. The sea is no more. The God driving chaos away in the original creation. The tree of life reappears. The waters of life. So you can say that Adam and Eve were evicted from the Garden of Eden. And 21 and 22, God shows us some prime real estate that's basically the Garden of Eden that we get back because of the work of Jesus Christ on the cross and making us new. Heaven's going to be a great place. We just all get to deal with each other, and there are no hidden agendas, and there are no, nothing, none of the stuff that we human beings have to deal with on a almost daily basis. We're going to be made whole.
So there won't be any miscommunication.
No miscommunication.
We won't misinterpret what each other
No hurt
says.
feelings. No, none of the stuff that goes on. We're just all going to be in the presence of God with work to do. How do you like that? You're not going to get to float around. There's going to be work, but the work won't be toil. The work will bring great satisfaction and joy.
I want wings. I want a cloud. I want a little harp.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't.
I want my mansion.
You don't.
No, but in seriousness, everything that is in these two chapters here is challenging. But like I said just a few minutes ago, without the challenge, or with every challenge, there's always that encouragement and that hope, and that's something to look forward to. And man, it's gonna be pretty cool.
It's going to be cool, and even us introverts will be happy being there.
Because the extroverts will know when to leave us alone.
The extroverts will know when to leave us alone, and we get to roam around heaven for eternity having small conversations with people you've always wanted to talk to. I want to, just imagine you get to meet the Apostle Paul. Yes, we all have questions for the Apostle Paul. I know, Paul, did you really mean that? But you know what Paul's going to say? It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Don't worry about it.
And we get to be in the presence of Jesus. And we're loved. That's just awesome. We're loved.
Yeah. And how much of realizing that we were majoring on the minors and so many things. and we elevated certain things to where they shouldn't be. And I just
I think having that perspective of what really mattered and what really matters. And Methodists, we talk about prevenient grace, justifying grace, sanctifying grace. We also talk about glorifying grace. That in heaven, God is continuing to glorify us, continuing to make us and remake us in His image. So the work of Christ and the work of grace goes on even in our heavenly experience, that we're deepening our relationship, deepening our conversations. I'm going to be hanging out with the Trappist monks, and
they do.
Doug will be over in the corner praying 12 times a day, and brew beer. Yes, they do. There'll be beer in heaven. For those of you wondering, yes, there will be. There'll also be wine there. Yes, there will be.
Puppy dogs.
You maybe remember in the Genesis study, I was making a big deal that animals were created nefesh hayah, a living being. Human beings are created nefesh hayah. The inference is that there are some things we share in common, or animals share in common with us. And Jesus, or the Bible's already told us, in eternity, the lion and the lamb lay down together. Well, if there are no lions and lambs up there, how are they going to lay down together? Okay.
You don't have to worry about me. I know my dogs are going to be
there.
there.
Your puppy dogs are going to be there, okay? All right, yes.
All right, so, I feel like we've kind of come full circle on...
We got puppies going in heaven. Yeah. We've come full circle.
This is a good note to end on.
Well, it really kind of is, because we've ended in a good place. We're looking forward to heaven, and I want to know, for the listeners and watchers out there, your questions, because inevitably you're going to have questions about this, because this is not, your elementary school passages. These are some pretty weighty passages, and it really is easy to get bogged down. So do send us your questions. We're very close to the end. We only have one more episode left of this season, and if you're still listening and if you're still tracking with us, then you've almost made it.
You can get it. You can do it. You can do it.
So send us your questions to askgoingdeeper@gmail.com. Let us know, maybe in the comments, what in this week's reading is something that really, what's an image that stuck out to you that maybe gave you some extra hope to look forward to, something to look forward to instead of be afraid of. That's a good place to end it, I think. But with that, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, leave us a review on podcast things if you know where to do that, share it with somebody, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next time.